I'm Jeff, the big brother. Jana seems to still be somewhere out in space. And this is Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast for now. This week on Jeff's Solo Rivalry Baseball Podcast, I'll argue with myself about ballpark food and if the Yankees are as good as all the experts believe they are. But first, here are the JSRBB headlines. The NCAA Division I Committee on Infractions has penalized the USC men's basketball program for a violation of the NCAA ethical conduct rule. A former assistant coach who was fired in 2018 accepted a bribe to steer players to a specific business management company. The Trojans are on probation for 2 years, fined $5,000, and will lose 1% of the school's basketball budget. Okay. Weird noises. Oh, it's you. You're back. You're just in time for the headlines. I guess back to SRBB headlines.
I am back, and is it clear skies? More time at home to look at the Milky Way? Well, UFO sightings are up. Last year, there were 7,263 reported sightings. In New York City, there were over 300 reports, the highest number to date.
In case you missed it, because I did, former MLB player and NFL Hall of Famer Deion Sanders was named the head football coach of the Jackson State University Tigers. Primetime has led the Tigers to a 4-3 record thus far in their SWAC spring season, rescheduled from the fall. They play their final regular season game April 24th.
Baseball Hall of Fame President Tim Meade is resigning his post of 2 years. Meade, who spent 40 years with the Angels before leaving for Cooperstown, has stated the distance from Southern California, where he maintains a residence, has been too difficult maintaining his responsibilities to his family, and he will stay on at the Hall of Fame until mid-May.
You can find these and past week's headlines on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com. Remember to rate and subscribe wherever you listen, and tell a friend to listen to the Sibling Rivalry Baseball Podcast.
First and foremost this week, welcome back, Jana.
Thanks. I had this weird, when we were going to start the show, and it was just really weird. I was kind of feeling off that day because the night before I was out looking at the stars and I didn't really see anything that I would say would be a UFO. But I went to, I guess it was a place, it was like the Zona Galaxy on the Tucson planet. And these aliens that had me, they had heard the episode about baseball on Mars, and I don't know, thought maybe I was an expert. I'm not. But it was interesting. I don't remember a lot about it because it kind of gave me that Men in Black treatment, I think, with the wand. They waved something, and then all of a sudden I'm back. So
did you have to wear a mask or?
No.
While you were there?
Well, yeah, but it was a different kind of mask because of, the gravity in the planet and all that.
The atmosphere.
The atmosphere. Yeah.
Oh,
and it was
okay.
there. I felt very light, so I kind of want to go back there.
Well, there was all there was all this noise, and it sounded like some kind of beaming. I really didn't know what happened to you. I just thought maybe you decided you didn't want to be on this show with me anymore. And so you figured out a dramatic way to do it instead of just not showing up or telling me, hey, I quit.
No. Yeah, I don't. I really kind of all a blur, but I will say, and when I got back into, trying to get back into the rhythm of being at home, I noticed that there's it looks kind of like a doily that people would make.
Uh-huh.
And it actually has what looks like alien heads on it. So I don't know if that's a memento or, like a parting gift. So
Maybe.
I'll
Are they
have
going to
to-
send you updates so we can talk about baseball on whatever planet they were from?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Tucson or whatever you said it was?
Yeah, it was Tucson planet in the Zona galaxy. I remember that much. And
Okay.
there's it was very rocky there.
I don't know what you told them about baseball, but maybe you could have the more traditional game going on there because things are starting to get out of hand down here. Thanks to the Atlantic Lake, or maybe could work out a deal between MLB and their thing to do all the experiments out in space.
Which makes more
have,
sense.
We could have traditional baseball more here. Yeah, more
like that.
talks about changes and things. The Manfred experimental ridiculous rules expeditionary forces are out it again. If you haven't seen any of their things, they have patches with their little logo on it. It's not properly ruined until it's Manfreded, I think is what their slogan is. The Atlantic League, which signed a 3-year partnership with the MLB to implement changes to the league playing rules, has some new ones. Now, you'll remember some of the greatest hits are all starting to show up. We talked about them a couple weeks ago in that the changes that are going to start happening in the experimental leagues, the minor leagues, which are now controlled by MLB. If you remember the 3-batter minimum, which we kind of don't think about anymore from a couple seasons ago, started in the Atlantic League. The robo-ump, still in use there, will now be in use in, I think, the low A leagues. And then the step-off rule. Step off. I'm stepping off. Don't try to steal. I'm going to step off. And then the other things, like they still have the pitch clock that is still a part of their of them. It's a 3-year plan, and then the MLB studies what happens and and is it feasible. So now this season, 2 new things are going to come up. Both of them are things that, compared to putting a ghost runner on second and extra innings, these actually don't seem as bad as that or 18 square inch bases.
Moving the mound. I wanted to see the mound because remember we said at Globe Life Field they could move the mound up and down.
Right. Yeah. It retracts into the ground.
Yeah. I thought that would be cool, but this is not that. This is just moving it back 12 inches.
Which, when you think about it, doesn't seem like a big deal. What's 1 foot back? You kind of reshape the mound a little bit. But according to the research that's been done, it could potentially be a big change. All of this has been put in play because pitchers have gotten better at what they do. They throw harder, faster. They're better at, we've talked about Trevor Bauer with this especially, but a lot of these pitchers, they figured out better spin rate. So by moving this back, the reaction time to a 93 mile an hour fastball thrown at 66 is like the reaction time at 61.6 is more like 91 miles per hour. And while you say, well, it's only 2 miles per hour, but it makes a big difference with the ball coming at you like that. And they found that it's not going to cause any problems mechanically for the pitchers. Right. Somebody's going to figure out how to get injured from throwing 1 foot farther back.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say there was a study done in 2019 by the American Sports Medicine Institute, and they had college pitchers throwing from distances of 60 feet 6 inches, 62 feet 6 inches, and 63 feet 8 inches. And they didn't see any significant differences in their rotational motion or their acceleration. And the ball velocity and strike percentage remained consistent at those. I don't have it broken down, but so I guess they say, well, it doesn't matter where we move the mound. It's not going to hurt the pitchers unless they step off, and then it could.
I don't know why it would hurt them because they got to yell out, step off. So wouldn't you think in their head they know I'm stepping off?
You would think, maybe, I hope.
I would only think that like 1 foot back probably isn't a big deal. Some of those others where you're a couple of feet back, because then you got to kind of reset how the mound is and actually move the apex of the mound back. That could change the defensive feel, what a pitcher's able to field then. What's the effect on the middle infielders having the pitcher farther back? So that would be,
those are all good things.
So now they think that by doing this, that's going to help generate more action, which is the big thing, generating more action. Now, if you think, geez, hasn't this always been, isn't this kind of set in stone? Well, you would think it is. Since the last time that any changes as far as the distance from the mound was like 128 years since the last time that they messed with the distance. When they moved it back 5 feet in 1893, they moved the pitching rubber back 5 feet to the 60 foot 6 inches. So before it was like 55 inches. But remember too, at the beginning of baseball, the pitcher, they were just throwing the ball up there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like batting practice.
Right.
They just threw it so that way, they could get a hit. They weren't up there trying to strike anybody out. What they saw was the strikeout rate declined from 8.5% in 1892 to 5.2% in 1893. So 128 years later, it's time for a change, I guess. Batting average increased by 35 points when they did that in 1893. It looks like potentially there could be a big change in the game and more action if strikeout rates go down. But the problem is that back then they weren't aiming for the fences. So yeah, maybe it slowed it down a little bit because you had to wait longer. From 55 feet, it was longer from 60 feet. So the ball takes longer to get there. You can have more time to see it. I mean, I don't know if that's going to make a difference because technology back then, technology didn't move that fast. Now, every day, the phone you just bought is obsolete. You bought the iPhone 12 and now the iPhone 30 is out. And with all of the things that they know now, it's not going to be word of mouth that one guy figured out that if he twists his hand a certain way or if he uses a little pine tar on his fingers, that it's going to help him. Nobody was talking spin rate back then. Nobody cared about spin rate.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about this because one of the things is to get more action. We know strikeouts have gone up. Home run rates obviously have gone up. But so far this season, and this number, it's like 37% just this season of all plate appearances are strikeouts. We're only in April. So that's a lot. And if moving the mound back does make it where the ball is in play, and I think I could be for that. So I thought it was interesting that the Atlantic League president, Rick White, said that they were pleased to play a critical role in Major League Baseball's test and evaluation of experimental rules. He went on to say that the Atlantic Players Baseball Atlantic Experimental League is a forward-thinking league, and it's satisfying to our teams and players to be leaders determining the future of our sport. But in 2019, the Atlantic League had planned to move the mound back 2 feet, but they opted against it after receiving pushback from players.
That's the question is, do you think it's more a frame of mind? If you push the mound back a foot or two, like there was 3 different links that they did. Even with the studies, do you think that the pitchers can get it in their head that that's going to cause problems for them, potential injury problems?
It could be. I think there's a lot of different things that go through their heads. I think injury, And then the other question that or thing that kept popping up to me is you had the asterisks stealing signs, obviously through technology. Now they're going to move the mound back, and it's supposed to give the batter more time to see the ball, see what's going on, see that what's coming at them. Does that play into what the asterisks were kind of doing before they moved the mound?
Imagine how much better their sign stealing could have been with more time.
Yeah. That's the first thing I thought of was the asterisks and how it could benefit them, because they already have the majority of the players that are there all were part of that. And I just wonder, anyway, I'm always thinking about them in sneaky.
Because it's Manfred, and Manfred is a friend to the asterisks.
So true.
Joe Kelly pouted at somebody, made a funny face. He got an 8-game suspension.
Yep.
The asterisks got nothing. Nick Castellanos flexed his muscles at somebody and got 2 games. Mm-hmm. The asterisks got nothing, and what they did was far worse.
That's
as we beat into the ground, and we'll continue to beat into the ground. I was thinking, too, about the changes to the mound. Now, normally, you're like, wait, it's been this way, and it has. You figure the mound's been the same distance for 128 years. They did make a change in more the modern era, since I've been alive. In 1969, they lowered the mound from 15 inches to 10 inches, which changed also the dynamic of the pitcher-batter relationship, because that also drove the strikeout rate down by 4%. So not as big as moving the mound back, but still, and the batting average went up by 11 points. But once again, with technology, things change quickly. The pitchers have, in all this time and all these years, have finally gotten to a point where they can overcome whatever, they've mastered the mound where it is. So if you move it back, I think that they will master it quicker now because they have better technology. They have all of this StatCast data. They have video like they didn't have before.
Well, and I was wondering too, is you have these pitchers and other ball players going to these places. I think it's Driveline in Washington State, and there's some other same facilities. They may already be shifting the mound, the distance. Okay, we want you to throw from this distance and from here. So some of the pitchers may already be throwing at different intervals, and so when the mound is moved, if it's moved back, say for MLB, then it may not be a big deal. I'm thinking of some of these guys. Trevor Bauer comes to mind as somebody that I could totally see saying like, well, I'm going to throw from this distance today, or kind of thing.
So you go out and you throw from 65 feet.
Yeah.
Seriously, you go out, you throw from 65 feet, and you're still throwing. If you throw hard, if you throw in the upper 90s, or let's say you throw 100 miles an hour, you're a Aroldis Chapman, Nolan Ryan type speed, those kind of things. If you're throwing from back there and you're figuring out from that distance how to reset how you throw, because think about breaking balls. Mm-hmm. Think about Clayton Kershaw and his curveball.
Yeah.
He's going to have to, a foot back may not be a big deal, but a few feet back. But if he can figure out how to make it break from, that 63.8 or 65 feet, and figure out when they're closer, it may make it a harder to hit pitch, may make it nastier. And if you overcome the pitchers have a lot of options. I mean, a batter could go in and say, "Here, throw from 65 feet, and I'll be in there." But until they start seeing all these different pitches, and there's no pitching coach out there that's going to throw. So unless you have one of these pitchers, unless you're taking batting practice from Clayton Kershaw or Trevor Bauer or Max Scherzer or any of these, Zach Greinke, whatever, so that you get a feel for a lot of these different and crazy pitches that they throw, the pitchers should always have the upper hand then.
Yeah. I mean,
and if you're always worried about launch angle instead of just contact, if you're not hitting like Rod Carew, be the spray hitter, who like David Fletcher is one of those who seems to go more with hit the ball where it's pitched versus waiting on one particular pitch and trying to get the launch angle and all that. He doesn't do that. Even Mike Trout doesn't do that really, but he understands more about the idea of the launch angle. When you're set in that mindset and the pitchers are like, how do I throw this exploding slider or this, cut fastball, whatever, and it doesn't matter from where I throw it. I could be standing on second base. I'm still you might have seen it coming, but at the last second, it drops out. You still aren't going to hit it. Doesn't matter where he throws it from.
Yeah. And I just, just a lot of questions, I was just thinking about how that would all work, because I would think you're professional, you're consistently trying to get better at your game. And so if and this is something they're doing now, but obviously this is something that has been talked about for years now. And so why not just, experiment with it as a pitcher and see. And then if it happens, it happens and you're ready. And if it doesn't, then you're ready anyway.
This seems more like a reasonable idea than some of the other things. You want to generate offense. This seems to make sense based on past experience versus we want to get something going, so we'll put a runner on second base. Well, that's length of the game. We don't want a game going 18 innings, but we know that could still happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues with that. One last thing, as far as this particular rule change goes, Stormtrooper Theo Epstein, Manfred's new flunky. It sounds like we thought it was going to be good, but it seems like he's drinking the Kool-Aid.
He's got the chip implanted.
That's right. Fans, players, and many others in the baseball community have expressed an interest in seeing more regular action on the field. We expect that's the opening part. He's grateful that the Atlantic League will let them experiment on them, and then we expect to learn a great deal about the impacts of such change and whether an adjustment to this critical field dimension is worth potential future consideration at other levels of professional baseball. So I think at the first I was not sure. It's like recently Baseballism came out with a t-shirt that just says 60-6. And you kind of think, well, it's been there, and it's been there for 128 years. So, yeah, it seems kind of ingrained, but if this would be a better way than some of the other dumb things that they've come up with, I would be fine with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with this. When I first heard it, I was like, really, come on. Why do we have to move anything? But then the more I read about it, and then, the more I thought about it, I thought, it might not be too bad.
Now, the other thing that they're experimenting with this season, after I thought about it a little more, maybe isn't so bad either.
Mm-hmm.
it does change the complexion of the game and the strategy. And at first, when I said that in my head, I went, oh, here we go again. Changing the strategy. And it's always, well, this changes the 3-batter rule. Well, sure, it changes the strategy, but does it change it for good? Did it make any difference? Is it a good, are you more involved because this could happen, this could change? Or did it just not work out to be that good of a strategy-wise? And that's not the answer to the question every time, is why do we want to do this? Well, it would be better strategy in the game, which makes it what? Well, most people think about the overall premise of all these changes. It's not about, nobody that is on the fence about baseball, all these people that they want to draw into the game don't care what the strategy is. Mm-mm. They want to see the action on the field. That's the primary thing. The game needs to be shorter and there needs to be more action.
Right.
Not strikeouts and a bunch of standing around, or a home run and a bunch of standing around.
No. This double hook, when I have it in my mind, is I'd like to see an actual hook and they pull the designated hitter with,
like in the old vaudeville shows or whatever.
With
and then
the hook.
Honestly, you know what I was thinking about? I was thinking that crocodile came back and got Captain Hook's other. So now he's Captain Hooks instead of just Captain Hook. That's what I was thinking. The double hook. So what we're talking about is the other experiment that they're going to be doing in the Atlantic League is what they call the double hook. And it's a designated hitter starting pitcher rule. So, and we assume, as do most people, that the designated hitter is coming to the National League permanently, probably after probably with the new collective bargaining agreement later, at the end of this season. They'll have to get into that. So with that, the designated hitter would be in play as long as the starting pitcher is in play. So if the starting pitcher comes in and goes 2 innings and gets roughed up and out, and they need to pull him out, the designated hitter goes with them. And that designated hitter may have hit once, may not have even come to the plate in that sense. So you've essentially wasted, and that player is wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute that a reliever comes in, either that pitcher will hit, or you'll have to pinch hit for them, the new pitcher, every time you change pitchers.
Which then you really need to know who's on your bench, who's available. One of the things, the goal of this double hook is to see the starters pitch longer into games. And we've talked about that. I think it was a game, probably this opening series of the Dodgers and the Rockies. And I texted you and I said, why are they pulling Buehler out? You know, he's doing well. Why is it an automatic, oh, it's the 6th inning, okay, he's out, or it's the 7th inning? We don't see those complete games anymore. Very rarely. There was one just recently, but you don't see it. And I would like to see pitchers go longer into the game. I think that's just I've always been that way. It's old school because I'm used to guys like Nolan Ryan, of course, and John Smoltz, and those guys going 9 innings.
Come in, yeah. How many complete? It used to be complete games was a big. You'd have guys with 20 complete games.
Right.
Season. Now you may see 20 complete games in the whole league for a season.
Exactly.
And so I've kind of gotten into a spot with it. I never liked the opener. I understood why, but I never liked the opener. I'm good with starters, but if you're going to have starters, then yeah, you need to let them. And some guys are going to have a bad game.
Yeah.
They're gonna come out and they're just gonna get beat up, and it happens to every single player is going to have a bad game, whether they go 0 for 6 or they get beat up on the mound, whatever. They make 3 errors in a game. These things happen. But I'd gotten to a point with pitching that was like, all right, fine. I'm not buying in so much to the idea of the closer anymore.
Yeah, I think you're just not. At least this season, I don't think you're seeing it. A designated, that's the guy.
Well, I look at it from that if that's the guy who's your best pitcher, you're saving him for the end. But what if you don't have those? What if you blow somebody out?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if, the situations that come up, the highest leverage situation may be in the 6th inning. That may be when you need your best non-starter.
Yeah.
And there's guys too that are, oh, he's just an innings eater. Okay, so he can go out and pitch for 7 innings, but he's not a great pitcher. If the idea of the game is to win, then I should be doing what I need to do to win. And if that means that my starter only goes for 3 innings because he's having a hard time, he's not doing that, and I want to preserve that, well, at 3 innings, I may have a 2-run lead. Is it too early for that? I don't think it's ever too early to preserve your lead. The problem is it's good and bad. And we've talked about this with like Dave Roberts. You mentioned that with Walker Buehler. Walker's pitching well, but I'm going to pull him because it's early in the season. It's a 6th inning. And then the reliever comes in, blows it, and you lose the game. Or he ties it up, and it makes it. And then you got to fight to come back. Instead of doing that, let him go. Was he fine? Did he come out and say, my arm's shot, I can't throw anymore? Then change him. But if he's still pitching okay, they automatically just say they hit this number. They hit 100 or they hit 70. It's an arbitrary number.
Yep.
They just made it up. And all of a sudden it became gospel.
Yeah. Well, and you hear that a lot. They'll even at the beginning of the game, they'll say, this is a starting pitcher. And especially if it's somebody, maybe a good example is like the rookie on Friday's game with the Dodgers that pitched for the Padres. It's like, yeah, he's probably not going to go. He's probably going to go about 60 pitches. That's the magic number. And it's like, okay, I get you want to preserve his arm, but does that become also for the pitchers? Do they kind of get into that mindset like, okay, I don't know that they're counting pitches and they're even thinking about it, but are they like, okay, it's this inning and I'm going to get out. It's time for me to go to the dugout. Is that a mindset that some pitchers have?
It affects your mindset on how you're pitching, and you maybe set it up that's like maybe your manager had said, well, let's just wait and see it happens, and then you start thinking, well, I've got to be about 60 because that 1 inning I must have thrown 30 pitches.
Yeah.
And it changes your whole mindset. Instead of being, out there and a competitor, you start constantly looking to see, it looks like he stepped up 2 steps on the dugout. You're more worried about when the manager's coming out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you go back to, was it 2017 or 2018 World Series with Rich Hill, where he was throwing well, having a good.
I think that was versus the Red Sox.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but and he was throwing well. It was decent, and he saw Dave Roberts come out. Now, sometimes the manager will come out and talk to the pitcher and go back. You don't see it happen often. Most of the time when they come out, they're gonna, they're calling for somebody. But in that instance, he was like, oh, well, here he comes. I'm out.
Well, they had a conversation too before. Right. So in his head, he knew which affected that game.
But Dave Roberts was like, well, I wasn't necessarily going to but it was all a communication with there, But it was the same thing in his head. It was like, okay, as soon as he steps out of the dugout, then I'm out. And yeah, it did go on to affect that game. But yeah, I with this double hook, I think it'd make it interesting, especially with the designated hitter really making, like you said, do they even get to bat? Maybe they bat once, and then if the pitcher's out, they're out. So then, was the pitcher pitching? Batting. Who's where? So it can make it interesting.
Well, I think it now, just in thinking about this now, two things. Earlier we were talking about the pitcher's mound being moved back. That's only going to be the second half of their season.
Right.
Now, the double hook's going to be the whole season. It starts from game one and goes through the whole thing. What I got to thinking about, though, as we've been talking about it, is that now your relief pitchers are the guys that you need to start taking batting practice.
Oh, yeah,
and
definitely.
maybe you start looking at them in your training. You're training them differently, and you're looking at these pitchers who are good hitters, and maybe even moving them to the bullpen. They were starters. Now, because they can hit, I don't know. I mean, that may be Madison Bumgarner. Maybe that's like a big move for him to save his career, because he hasn't been doing well as a starter for a couple of years. He's had a couple of injuries, obviously didn't help, but he's a great hitter when he hits, and you move him to the bullpen. He becomes more effective, and then you've got somebody who could come up. You're going to probably start to see more of the two-way Shohei Ohtani kind of players. Jared Walsh, who we've been raving about with the Angels, came up as a two. His debut as an Angel was a pitching debut. Let's get more two-way players, or convert these two-way players solely into relief pitchers, work on them on all their stuff, find the best, and work on them on their hitting. That's how you defeat that.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, too, because you do need, when you have in the American League, they always had the designated hitter, but then you have somebody like Shohei Ohtani who comes out and can do both. And it does, your value goes up because you can do this and you can do that. And, it's like, I was thinking about Kike Hernandez the other day and how he played every position on the Dodgers except for catcher. And he wasn't bad when he pitched either. But he could hit and he could do all of that. So, yeah, having pitchers, you need to add something else to the resume.
So finally, of all these rules that are being implemented in the experimental leagues, there's a couple there that actually seem like it might be something worthwhile. I think it will indeed be interesting to see how that one plays out. And I don't feel like there's a big issue, because these are things that have to be collectively bargained in. And they're not going to probably make it this time, so how long until we would see? It depends on how long that bargaining agreement is, and if the players are eventually willing to go back and add and make some changes to it. All right, so now from the make sure you have all the facts straight before you tell your story on a podcast, Joe West, current Major League umpire, who I hear is retiring after this season. He is the senior umpire, was awarded $500,000 in damages plus interest dating back to July 8th in a defamation suit against Paul LaDuca, who at one time in his major league career was an all-star at least once.
Yeah, the suit came because on a podcast, LaDuca accused reliever Billy Wagner of bribing West to get a bigger strike zone. And he accused, he said that Wagner let West use his 1957 vintage Chevrolet to make the strike zone change when he was up at bat.
That's all it takes?
And that's it. Just let him drive your 1957 Chevrolet.
I'm surprised pitchers haven't all gone out and got a classic car. Oh, Joe West is going to be here. You know what? I would like to see, if that works, that bribery kind of thing, I would like to see a pitcher try to bribe Angel Hernandez to call actual strikes.
Yes.
And not this weird all over Picasso painting strike zone that he has.
Well, it's like Picasso painting and even some Jackson Pollock in there. So, yeah.
With an Escher thing where the unending, everything moves in together.
Yes.
It just...
Yeah, so Wes said that LaDuca had discussed, like we said on his podcast, that the player had been ejected 15 times, 8 or 9 being by West, but the umpire's suit said LaDuca was actually ejected 8 times in his Major League Baseball career, with once by West, and that there was no favoritism present. The judge agreed, and Joe West plans to retire after this season, and he made his Major League debut in 1976.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
All right, big week for the Dodgers. I guess you missed out on it. Since you just now got beamed back, you missed out. They played 2 National West foes in the last week. They were on an 8-game winning streak. Played the Rockies and the Padres.
Yeah, but the great thing is that I can go back and watch those games. And I think they were beamed in because, like I said, some of the things are very hazy. I kind of got the Men in Black treatment with that wand thing. But I do distinctly remember the Dodgers playing the Padres.
What's the one thing out of all of the week of the games that you may or may not have seen that stands out to you?
Oh, I gotta say, Mookie Magic, as Joe Davis said. He just amazes me. And what's even more amazing is he's a Dodger. That's like the best thing. There's a lot of crazy things that happened in this series. But the Dodgers did play the Rockies first, so maybe mention that. They'd won all 3 games. They did.
They swept the Rockies. And probably the one thing that I remember most about them sweeping the Rockies is one particular home run. And Justin Turner, normally, if you're talking about Justin Turner in April and he hits a home run, that's the one home run.
Yeah.
This particular one, out in the outfield, it used to just all be bleacher seats. There's no backs to the seats in that. But when they redid the outfield area and made the entrance in through center field kind of the gateway into the park, because before you could only get to the outfield there if you went through, or there were certain areas you had to go into a certain section to get in. You couldn't get anywhere else in the park. Well, they changed that, and along the wall they put what they called the home run seats. And on the one right behind the outfield wall, there's a little table where you could sit there and have your food. This guy's sitting out there, Justin Turner, home run, and you're watching it. It hits, and all of a sudden the guy who's right there where the ball hits, because it just barely went over the wall, has stuff all over his jacket.
It was very cheesy.
Yes. And then we found out when they looked in closer that Justin's home run ball hit right into his nachos, and it splattered the cheese all over his jacket.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting that out.
Doesn't want it out. That's
No.
pretty historic.
He had it framed.
Later, because they kept all the time with that, because that was a big thing. One of his friends took a chip and took some of the cheese off of his jacket. And it was kind of cool because Justin saw what happened later and sent over some new nachos. And then the Dodgers, the organization, sent the field reporter out, and they offered him a world champion sweatshirt in either blue or gray. So he took the blue one, so he'd have something to cover up and wouldn't have to wear the cheesy jacket anymore. So they made it. It was a fun moment, and they played it off, and it wasn't like hey, you're taken away from the game.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you're a Rockies fan, you don't want to watch it.
No.
Because you're like, whatever, just watch the game. If it had happened in Colorado, or if a Rocky had hit it, they'd have probably thought it was great.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
They did also go and do a little review, because there was a question as to whether or not the fan reached over the wall. But he specifically said, and you see him, he's keeping his hands back. He knew where the wall was, that invisible, shield. He stopped and took the hit with the nachos.
Yeah, he said that. He said, I didn't want to interfere. And
didn't want to be that guy.
I didn't. Right, exactly. Now,
and it worked out.
And it worked out really well. I will say, Justin Turner obviously has not bought food at a ballpark in a really long time, because he said, they're probably $2 nachos. No, Justin, they probably were not.
$2 nachos at a Little League game anymore.
Yeah. So, I don't know how much, nachos are at Dodger Stadium, but
I figure they're probably $7 to $9.
Probably, yeah. And they were just regular nachos. I know you had mentioned if they had been in the helmet, then it would have been, $15, maybe $20.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that was probably the highlight of the Colorado series. Along with, in the third game, David Price got his first career regular season save.
Gave up 2 singles.
So.
And now I'd forgotten that it was his first save. So what I think happened was he was going out to pitch. He says, Kinley, do you have some advice? Kinley said, give up a couple hits. Make it exciting. And he gave up a couple hits, and then he goes, yeah, but Kinley normally does that and then gives up the lead. I better just strike out the rest of the
Right, yeah, he came to his senses.
And, he did. He struck out 2, Story and Hampson, and then, what's his name?
Right.
Tapia grounded out, and that ended the game.
Yeah. But, so good series for the Dodgers, swept the Rockies, so good momentum going into San Diego. One of the things with the San Diego series, and this was back in, early March, there was reports that it was going to be really hard for Dodger fans to get tickets to Petco Park this season, because one, there's limits on, the number of fans. Then you have, all of the teams, they have their season ticket holders, so they have those seats. But there was a lot of talk about how the Padres were shutting the Dodger fans out of the stadium, because in years past it's been pretty much just Dodger Stadium south.
Right.
Yeah.
There were a few Dodger fans. They were noticeable. It wasn't like they were one here and one there. There were some that were even right behind the plate area.
Yeah. Well, I noticed on Friday that I kind of started to count, and I was like, oh, there's 20. But of course, they're not showing everywhere. But, at first I counted 20. But there weren't as many. But then as the weekend went on, you did see and hear more. The series lived up to the hype. It was crazy. That first game was crazy. 12 innings. Dodgers ended up winning 11-6. Fernando Tatis Jr. came off the IL on Friday just in time to see the Dodgers.
And have an error. So he picked back up.
Yeah, well, you had to get back to what he was doing before,
Looks good to see that he's back in season form.
Yeah, he's got consistency.
He wasn't rusty from his time off.
Yeah, I mean, you had in this game, you had the 12 innings. Corey Seager hit a 2-run home run in the 12th. It was the first leadoff 2-run homer in the majors this season and only the 6th ever. The first person to accomplish this feat was also a Dodger.
Yeah, versus the Asterix last season.
That's right. Yeah, Edwin Rios.
That's right.
So, Luke Raley hit his first major league home run there in Petco.
He almost beat Matt Beatty to the first hit of the season as well.
Yeah.
Matt Beatty got his first hit of the season, like just a few at-bats or a couple innings before Luke Raley got his first hit of his career in the major leagues.
Yes. Yeah. David Price again came in. I don't know that they were going to necessarily use him, but he's a team player, said, I'm available if you need me. He went ahead and threw 2 scoreless innings. The Padres tied the game in the 8th and the 9th innings. It was a crazy, wild ride. Benches did clear in
the 10th.
And the 10th, yep, with Dennis Santana and the all-star. I mean, a guy, I don't know. I think I went to school with a guy named Jorge Mateo.
Yeah, who's Jorge Mateo? I saw the guy. I was like, who is that? And why does he think that? What does he think? It's like last year with Grisham running his mouth. Who are you?
Right. Yeah. The only thing I could figure out is that they had said that it was the 3rd time he'd been hit in like the last, however many times he'd been at bat. Because he was a pinch hitter. But
was it the same team that hit you the other times? No.
No.
What do you think? That you know what? There's a league mandate. Hit Mateo.
That's right. That in every clubhouse, his picture is up there in a frame.
Right.
And it says
most wanted to be beaned.
Yeah. Yeah. So
there's only one player right now that's like rookie status or young that a lot of people they're getting to know who could be that way. And that's Yermin Mercedes.
Right.
And he's earned it this far to be mouthy back to the pitcher if he got hit.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, and that was weird. I mean, obviously Santana didn't mean to do it. He seems like a pretty easygoing guy, except at the end of that when he got out of the inning. You saw that fire. But to me, it looked like Dennis Santana was like, hey, okay, sorry. And then Mateo just started mouthing off. And then, of course, benches cleared. And the poor guys from the bullpen come running in and nothing happened, as always. So no punches were thrown. But
they got a little cardio.
Yeah. They got some cardio. David Price had a sacrifice fly. He had an RBI in this game. The interesting thing about this is the sac fly was caught by Joe Musgrove, who had just hit a no-hitter against the Rangers. So you had the Dodger pitcher at bat hitting to a San Diego pitcher playing left field, who their second baseman, Jake Cronenworth, pitching to David Price.
I'd forgotten that Musgrove was out in left field, that they were doing that. At that point, it was like, okay, we got to... Yeah. So the Friday night game was crazy because you went to Zennings.
Mm-hmm. So, Manny Machado, Mr. Hustle. I mean, I'm not Mr. Hustle, Manny Machado.
Not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Not my cup of tea, Machado.
So you could tell he obviously never hustles. And because I think it was in the 8th inning, he got a walk, but he had swung and his back was hurting. So he walked to first base. They come out and he's like, no, I'm not coming out. Then his back is hurting, but he's still second. Then he takes third on a pass ball, but he hurts his shoulder. So now he's crippled, but he's not coming out of the game. And then he goes on to score because Hosmer tied the game with a single. But you could tell he was totally gassed. Like he looked like he needed a cane. He couldn't get in the dugout. And it was so funny to see him just, like doing all this stealing bases. But when he would steal a base, you could tell, he really was, that whole inning just took every ounce of strength that he had to score that run.
On Sunday, I saw him. I don't know if he was still in third, what happened, but he gets a third, and he had to go back. I think it was a foul ball. So he has to go back, and he walks. And at that same moment that I saw him, I thought, run.
Yeah, he never runs.
That's why we're taking up so long. It's not all these other things. It's the fact that you're walking slowly back to second base.
Yeah.
You know what? Throw the ball over there. Tag him out.
He should have. When I was watching the Padres this weekend, I realized that I really, there's the Dodger-Giant rivalry. And there will always be that rivalry because they were in New York. And then Dodgers came to California, then the Giants came. So that's always going to be there. But the Padres, and I don't even really, maybe it's sacrilegious as a Dodger fan to say this, but, you don't really have this animosity toward the Giants. I want to beat the Giants, but the Padres, they're just, I just can't stand them. I don't like anything about them. I don't think there's one player that I could say, yeah, he's not bad. I mean, maybe you, Darvish, maybe. But only because, he was, I don't know. I don't even know if I could say that. But they just, anytime I would see them, I just was like, I want to smack them. They just, they just have that look. I did want to mention about David Price, keep going on about David Price, but he became the first Dodgers reliever with a win, 4+ strikeouts, and an RBI in an extra inning game since Knapp Rucker on July 9th, 1915.
Oh, yeah, Nap. I remember.
You remember watching Nap?
Taking a nap. I
like to take naps. Yeah.
Yeah, Friday was crazy. Saturday had its own craziness. Kershaw Day.
Always a good day.
Taking on former Dodger Yu Darvish.
Yeah, which Yu Darvish was like, I want to pitch against Kershaw. And I guess the reason was because when Darvish was on the Dodgers, he and Kershaw were throwing partners. And when Darvish left, he said Kershaw never called him. It makes me laugh. And I'm not like, why would he need to call you? Did he need to call you and what? And why?
He sent you a Post-it note.
I mean, so I don't know if he wanted like revenge because he was a jilted throwing partner.
He thought that they were closer than they really were.
So he was jilted.
So a pitcher's duel for the most part. And you get to the top of the fifth. up through the fourth inning, Darvish had been perfect. No runs, no hits, no errors, nothing. Nobody's been on base for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And then it started to fall apart. The bases ended up being loaded. They had broken up the no-hitter.
Mm-hmm.
Some walks, pass ball. Bases are loaded. And in most situations, and I've seen this a couple times over this week, Trevor Bauer came up one time with the bases loaded. Clayton Kershaw is the pitcher in this situation. Comes up with the bases loaded. You, Darvish, you normally pitchers, you just go right after them. They're not going to do anything. It's rare. Kershaw's had a couple of RBI hits in his career, and even one RBI hit this season.
He did.
But you still go right after him. And you, Darvish, had him down, 1-2, 0-2, something like that. There were 2 strikes. I'm not sure what happened, if Mookie Betts' spirit took over Kershaw, if Mike Trout's spirit, somebody who, Rod Carews' spirit or George Brett, I don't know who took over, but Kershaw had like a bionic eye and ends up working a 3-2 count and forces Darvish to throw him a true payoff pitch. And he got an RBI. Just one. And not because he hit it, because Darvish walked him.
It was so perfect.
And walked in a run. It was. I thought of all the...
This is Darvish singing, thinking, why can't we be friends? Why can't we be friends?
And then Justin Turner hits a home run.
Later.
Yeah. And then 2-0. 2-0. And you're like, okay, but you're not. I know as I'm watching, I'm not feeling comfortable.
No, not at 2-0.
Because we know what they're capable of. And honestly, the guy I was worried about every time I saw he was coming up was not Tatis, was not Manny Machado. It was Eric Hosmer.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's who I was concerned about every time, because Eric Hosmer has been on a hot streak, and he pretty much owned the Dodgers this weekend, regardless of the fact that the Dodgers won 2 of the 3. Eric Hosmer was really the big stick for the Padres.
Yeah.
Across the series.
He really was. I will say that before Kershaw got his RBI, there was an incident between Kershaw and Jurickson Profar, who is another one that I just...
Who? No, I know who he is compared to whatever, Mateo.
Right, yeah, we know him. So he's up to bat. His bat, he's called out on strikes, but on the last pitch, his bat hits Austin Barnes' glove. So the umpire had called him out, but he's like, hey, wait a minute. My bat hit his glove. Kershaw was mad, really glad that he didn't get thrown out of the game. Even the umpire, I think, they have respect for the future Hall of Famer, because he was like, come on, you need to go back here. But the ball had already passed Profar. He's going to strike out.
It was in the glove.
Right. So he's going to strike out anyway. The Padres ended up challenging it. The umpires in New York gave him first base. It ended up not being, it didn't help the Padres. But Kershaw felt that it was a when I was reading his lips, a BS swing. And he also felt that he did it on purpose. And his main concern was that his catcher, Austin Barnes, could have been seriously injured.
We'd have to find it. Maybe we could find it and post it. Because he goes and he stops.
Yeah.
And then the ball's in the glove. And then he follows through. And I'm not saying he did it purposely. But at that point, it was already there. There was no reason to swing anymore.
Yeah.
It seemed kind of wonky, the way that it all worked out.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it's worth calling him out for. The way that he reacted, like, wait, why? How am I out when catcher's interference?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you set that up, is what you did. You knew what you were doing.
Yeah. It did seem that way.
Well, that game, 2-run lead, especially with as much game was left after we got the second run. The situation in the bottom of the ninth really looked like it was a nail biter. But I almost felt like, all right, we're going to extra innings.
Yeah.
We're going to Zinnings. We're going to be going to Zinnings now. Because it's one of those situations where you just, it's almost like it's scripted. Okay, they got 2 guys on, they're going to score, or there'll be a home run and they'll walk it off.
Right.
But probably the greatest play this season, and I do know that this play got the NL Play of the Week, is courtesy of the Magic Man, Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts provided that magic. Now, tying runs in scoring position, it's the 9th inning. Tommy Pham laced it was laser liner to right center field. Victor Gonzalez is pitching, and it looked like it was probably gonna fall right in front, but not if Mookie is in center field. It was lasered to him. It was laser focus on his part because he just laid out and he caught that ball right in the heel of his glove. And he was excited. He even said that he kind of blacked out. Like he just kind of was like, just happened. And he was excited. And the Dodgers went on to win that game 2-0.
I'm just going to end it now. I'm not going to let this go on. And he laid out. That was an awesome catch. That was great. I was up cheering here in the living room. That was crazy. Because I really had thought the Dodgers have done that before, where even if they come back and win it, it tied up. And like we said, the Padres are a team that can do that. I just expected it was going to.
Yeah, and that...
But no.
But no, because Mookie was there, and StatCast gave that catch, that for Betts to make that catch, he had a 10% chance of making that catch. So it was having to travel 52 feet and 3.3 seconds to make that play in the game. Was beating his chest. He just
have no fear. Mookie's here.
I know when I was watching the game, I just started cheering. And I think it was my oldest was like, "Mom, you need to stop. You almost gave me a heart attack." Because I had been, on the edge of my seat, just quiet, and then just erupted. And that was awesome. Awesome. So then we go to Sunday. Trevor Bauer's on the mound. Blake Snell on the mound for the Padres. And the Dodgers end up losing this game, but 5-2, because the Padres just came back again. Eric Hosmer was the catalyst in this game. But it's interesting, if you look at Trevor Bauer and you look at Blake Snell and you look at the line, you have Trevor Bauer went 6 innings, had 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, gave up a home run. Blake Snell, 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts and 1 home run. So they're very similar lines there. And I think for Blake Snell, he wanted to get this game over with as far as pitching against the Dodgers this season so that people would stop talking about the World Series. I don't know that he really...
I would want people to talk about that because he pitched really well. He could have kept them.
Yeah.
His pitching, had they not pulled him, the Dodgers hadn't figured him out that day.
No.
And there could have been a game 7.
Yeah. Totally, yeah. And I mean, even this game, when you look at, guys like Corey Seager, I think Corey Seager had 0 for day on Sunday and against Blake Snell too. So he still causes problems for them. One of the things that stood out, CT3 hit a home run. That was the 2-run homer. That was the only score or runs for the Dodgers. I guess another thing, because I saw it, I was watching the San Diego feed of the game. I will say the 2 guys that were on there weren't too bad, but they did show JT tripping over the third base bag probably 6 times in a row. Let's get it from another look. Yeah, and Trevor Bauer called him safe.
Well, JT even thought it was funny. I like that. We've got more angles of JT tripping over the bag than we do of that replay of a controversial play.
Pretty much.
We can get him from all the angles. We can see what it looked like when he was falling. Well, luckily JT wasn't injured in that, because sometimes you do something like that and you like break your wrist or something, and he's too hot. We can't lose him now.
No, I know that was my concern, but when I saw him get up and he was laughing and Trevor Bauer had called him safe on the play, I knew he was good to go. Now I think there is a parade scheduled in San Diego.
I think it's going on right now down in Gaslamp.
I think so.
The parade's been going since the victory because they're thinking this may be the only parade we get.
One thing, too, in this game is Brusdar Graterol was back from the IL. This is some controversy. The Dodgers were up, and they bring Brusdar in, and I like him. But this is his first game back this season, and got a little out of hand. And like I said, I don't know if the Dodgers were, like they said, this is just another regular game, series game. It's not a big deal. And Dave was like, hey, he needs to get out here. We need to see him pitching. They weren't, too concerned. So I guess in that respect, okay, I'll go with that. But I still don't know that I would have put him in that
I didn't think so either,
situation.
But I think, too, we're over, as fans, we're overhyping the situation. Because it's the Padres, and because we want to beat the Padres 19 times this season.
Right.
We don't want that. We want them to be 0-19 versus the Dodgers.
Yes.
And from that respect, yes, that was a wrong space. I'm like, now? Was my thought, but when you put it into that context that he's got to pitch at some point, why not now? Think about it. It's only what? We're not even 20 games into the season yet.
Right.
Let's not get, and the Dodgers are gonna see them again next weekend.
Yeah, it's not like they're gonna see him again. Yeah. Yes.
It's not the end of the season. We're not battling for that playoff spot at this point. I mean, ultimately, I guess yes. But that one loss, you won the series. That one loss isn't going to play into it yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
you still have 16 more games to go.
Yep.
And this next one's going to be a little crazier because it's 4 games set.
Yeah. In LA, and the Dodgers have already, I think both teams have already lined up their, at least who they think will be pitching. It looks like it's going to be Buehler, Kershaw, Bauer and May for the 4 games. And then San Diego has Musgrove, Darvish, and Snell. And then I'm not sure who else they'll throw in there. I did want to mention one big thing with the Dodgers is Cody Bellinger. When he got spiked in Oakland, they said at first it was just a contusion, but it come to find out it's a hairline fracture. So he's going to be out, I would say probably 6 to 8 weeks, maybe less. He has started doing some rehab a little bit here and there. He has traveled with the team. Gavin Lux was placed on the 10-day IL because of a wrist injury. And then the one that we've talked about, but we still don't have a timetable, still not really sure what's going on, is Tony Gonsolin, who has shoulder inflammation. So we're hoping, that can heal up and he can get back out on the mound, hoping that it's nothing, too serious. Also, Matt Beatty, who got his first hit in San Diego, but then he was sent to Arizona to the alternate site.
All right, so the Dodgers we talked about that the Padres are matching up again over this next weekend for a 4-game set, Thursday through Sunday. Dodgers left San Diego, went to Seattle, so they've got 2 with Seattle. Got to get that out of the way first, and of course Seattle is leading the AL West right now as one of the top teams in the league. That matchup should be interesting. I think Seattle's that early season surprise, but I don't think they can continue on with it. They're not quite there yet, but I do see them becoming that team next year after. It is time for the POW.
So,
the player of the week.
So my player of the week, I was thinking about this, and I had one person down because I was like, I'm just going to go with this guy because he hit his first major league home run. He's just fun to watch, and that's Luke Raley. But then I thought, you know what? My player of the week, and I think Luke Raley will be a player of the week later. But my player of the week this week is David Price.
Oh, nice. Good pick. What led you to pick David Price?
I just looking at his just his performance over against the Rockies and then again against the Padres, his willingness to, he is a starting pitcher, but he's in the bullpen this year, and he's been a really good addition to the bullpen, and he just has put himself into those spots where, and that, when he first came out, it was kind of like, I don't know, but he's doing really well, looked good against Colorado, and of course in San Diego. I don't know, I just think he deserves the player of the week. He's made multiple contributions.
All right, well, my player of the week, I went through, I kind of thought about David Price, but he wasn't fully on my radar. Thought about Kershaw. He had a pretty good, he only pitched once over the week and had a pretty good, 6-inning pitch, 0 ERA, 8 strikeouts. And then, of course, he got that RBI with the bases loaded walk. I also looked at Trevor Bauer, who pitched twice during the week, 13 innings, .69 ERA, 16 strikeouts. But I had to go back to the guy who I gave it to last week, Justin Turner. 2 weeks in a row, Justin Turner, because I looked at first, Max Muncy had a couple of good games over the week. Corey Seager had a couple, but they both batted under 200 over the whole week of games between the two series. JT, 9 hits in 20 at-bats. Had a double. 3 home runs in the week. 7 RBIs. Hit 450. He's the engine right now.
Yeah.
The other guys are playing, but he's really pushing and carrying everything. And then add in the entertainment value of him tripping over third base and the Nacho home run.
He He's got it all. Now,
He's on top of it.
Yeah.
He has taken this opportunity with re-signing with the Dodgers, and he's not like a lot of guys where it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm signed. He's playing like he's playing for a new contract.
yeah, he does. He looks really good, and he was also on my list too. But when in the end, I just felt like maybe this week, David Price was deserving, but.
Well, the beta testing continues. We are workshopping our Player of the Week certificate. So eventually, all of the Players of the Week will get a certificate, an SRBB certificate for Player of the Week, and an SRBB sticker.
Yes.
Maybe at the end of the year, whoever's our Player of the Year, maybe we'll send them the SRBB T-shirt.
Ooh. Maybe we need to get this out so that they all know that's what they're playing for, and see how that they want it.
Big week for me and the Angels, and I'll explain that a little bit more in a second. Angels came in with an 11-game home run streak. They hit home runs in the first 11 games of the season. Since then, the streak has ended. Went to Kansas City for 3. That's how they started the week. And then they were welcoming the Twins into Anaheim. So we'll start with Kansas City. First game out, they had a bad last game somewhere in Florida. They got beat 15-1, but because of rainouts and that, it was supposed to be a 4-game series. They ended up winning that series. They come to Kansas City. First game out, they pick it up, and great offensive game. They beat the Royals. But after that, they couldn't really. They had a hard time with it, and they couldn't really stop Salvador Perez, their catcher, who had he just was hitting, making big plays. So it was in. They end up losing 2 of the 3 to Kansas City, and Kansas City overall has been playing really good and is up towards the top of the Central. So they've been, who knows, once again, can they maintain that? They play with the Twins and the White Sox in that Central Division. But right now they look really good. One of the things that was crazy for the Angels was the way that the Tuesday game ended. So they played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday there. And the game was close. So Monday they did well, they won. Tuesday the game's close, but towards the end of the game, something I don't think I'd ever seen happen before ended the game. Greg Holland's pitching in relief. Throws a ball short. It would have been great if he was back on that 55-foot mound. But from 60 foot to 6 inches, there was no way. Bounces it. It bounces off of Salvador Perez, the catcher, and looks like it's going to get away. So David Fletcher, who's on third base, is heading down. Now, this would have tied the game. He's heading down the line. He sees that, so he's starting to go. The ball bounces off Sal Perez and then hits and bounces back off of Jared Walsh, who was at the plate, back into Perez's hand, who, being the solid player that he is, grabbed it, threw to third, and Fletch was too far off. He couldn't get back in time to do that, and that ended the game.
Well, and I think that they had talked about this, Perez and Holland, that maybe this was their trick play, that he was going to throw it at his chest
and they were going to throw Fletcher out. They'd already had the scenario in their head.
Well, it worked out perfectly then, if that was the case, and probably not, but not in the way that they planned. So
No.
I think.
Yeah, they drew it up before, you
Right.
know, they're like, okay, in this situation, if this happens, I'm going to throw it at your chest, and then you're going to, yeah. I didn't think they thought it was going to go off of the batter. Maybe. I don't know. It's like one of those.
Well, if it had gone the way that it bounced and then off of Perez, if it hadn't hit Walsh, it would have gone far enough out. Fletcher would have scored easily.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen, and they ended up dropping that one, which took them to back home. They had Thursday off with the Twins coming in on Friday. More importantly than the Twins coming to Angel Stadium on Friday, I was going to Angel Stadium on Friday.
That was the most important part.
Well, the Twins were somewhat equally important because without them, no game.
Right. Well,
yeah. So we'll get to that part in a second. So the Angels, come home. They're just got beat the last two games of the series versus the Royals. They were a little quiet compared to what they had been. So it's like, all right, no problem. We'll get in there and play. Then I noticed, because for some reason I hadn't looked when we were going, who was going to start. It was like, well, Alex Cobb, or I wasn't sure if I wanted to see Quintana pitch, but I would have been okay with that. But I've seen Heaney pitch many times in his young career. And I wanted to see somebody else, but it's like, okay. And I'm not always convinced at what he can do. Heaney was actually a lot better.
but they knew you were coming.
Maybe. He ended up pitching pretty well overall. But through the first few innings of the game, it's pretty quiet overall. A lot of 3 up, 3 down. Haney makes it to the 6th. But in the 4th inning, Justin Upton, remember that name, he doubles. Jared Walsh singles, scoring Justin Upton. So the Angels are up. Then we get on Haney. Had been, like I said, pitched pretty well. Leaves in the 6th. Aaron Sleeger, as Blanca calls him, my giant, because he's 6'10". And we had gotten, let me just tell you, this was, if you're worried about going out to a ball game, wherever you are, and there's the restrictions that are there, I never really felt like I was ever like, this is crazy. There's too many people, or people aren't doing this, or we're all packed together. Most of the time they're selling tickets in pods. So you have like, and most of them are 5, 4, 3. I was able to get 2, but to get the 2, we had to sit in the upper deck, which was good because we were mostly behind home plate. We had a good view out over the field, but when you're going up those stairs, it's crazy. But it was nice. I never at one point felt like, geez, this is just an outbreak waiting to happen. And I got my shots and everything, so maybe nothing will happen to me at all. But that aside, overall, it was. And people were respectful of everybody. There were people most people wore their mask, right, and everything, so it was fine. And because of the change in things, it used to be you texted in or you went onto the ballpark app and you ordered your food and they brought it to you. So we missed out on that. We had to go get our own food. But the concession stands were open for that, so you can see the progress that's being made.
Yeah.
So Sleegers comes in, And Seager's like a lot of tall guys are not. He's not Randy Johnson. He's not throwing hard. He's got to be more of a finesse pitcher. He gives up 3 runs. So the Angels are down at that point, 3-2. And being an Angels fan, you're never sure what's going to happen from there. Will they ever recover from this? Well, that takes us to the 7th inning. Jose Iglesias leads off with a single. Fletcher singles. Iggy scores. There's a wild pitch. Fletcher gets the second. They intentionally walk Trout. Oh, I forgot Rengifo, who just got called up because Rendon is out, injured, is at third base. So the bases are loaded after they walked Trout. The bases are loaded for Justin Upton. And Justin Upton hits a grand slam. Boom. So we're going crazy. It's insane because you don't see grand slams that often. And when you do, you're not at the game. You're watching it on TV.
Right.
So we get him. He hits a grand slam. Next up, Jared Walsh. Back-to-back home runs. So the Angels are then leading 10-3 after the solo home run from Walsh. And that was pretty much it. The weird thing that I thought about for the Friday game, which was the only game of the series that's got to play, was that the Twins, Rocco put in Willens Astudillo, who is a position player for the Twins. He's a backup catcher. He's also played second base, some outfield. What I thought was funny I actually watched, we got home and the Dodger game was still on, so I watched the last couple innings, is that both the Dodgers and the Angels opponents used position players to pitch to end the game. So he came in the bottom of the 8th and pitched for the
Yes.
Twins. Closed it out. And boom, that was it. The Angels had a great game, and then COVID reared its ugly head. Now, first off, I was kind of looking forward to, and I overlooked it, that Simba, Andrelton Simmons, was going to his first visit back to Angel Stadium since he left. He didn't come with the team because he was on the COVID list.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
somebody else was on the COVID list, and about an hour and a half before game time, right when fans were getting ready to be let into the stadium, I think some had already gotten in, they found out that the game was postponed on Saturday because somebody with the Twins had tested positive, a part of the traveling party that had been maintaining all the right protocol, apparently. And then, out of an abundance of caution, actually, this one, it was to give time for tracing and all that other stuff, contact tracing. They postponed that, and then Sunday got postponed. They found that out about an hour after we found out about Saturday. And then even on Sunday, I think they called that they were going to postpone the Twins A's game that was supposed to happen on Monday. So the Twins, once again, thanks to the Twins, COVID, and it's always a Central or an Eastern team, isn't it?
It is. It always seems. I was just going to say that. It always seems like it's the East or a Central team. I did hear that former Dodger Kyle Garlick, who's an outfielder, had tested positive for COVID. Didn't hear anybody else. I guess he said, "Yeah, you can tell him it was me." Or he was one of them. So yeah, another, throwing another wrench. And I think one of the things I was reading too is, you think by this point, they played last year, they went through all the protocols, they know what to do, but you still have teams that just can't get all of their players on the same page. And doing what, I don't know. I don't know how they got it or where or any of that. But it just seems to me that by this point, you should figure out this is your job, and you go to your job and you go back and you don't do anything else that could affect your job. But because this job doesn't just affect them, it affects the team, it affects the whole schedule.
Right.
So
yeah, Kyle Garlick played in that game on Friday.
Yeah.
So he potentially could have affected both teams.
Right.
With that, a lot of times they catch a member of our traveling party, and it's somebody that's only affecting their team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously more, like you said, everybody else, but he did play that in that game. So,
Yeah.
All right. Well, since that's all we had to talk about with the Angels, you got a player of the week, or did the aliens not let you pay attention to any Kansas City? And
Yeah, I didn't get to really pay a lot of attention because they were very interested in the spin rate on the other planets, how that would, they have some kind of goo that they think might work. The pitcher wouldn't use it though, position players, because there's nothing against position players having something. So if it gets on the ball and then the pitcher gets it, who knows? You don't know. So they're thinking about stuff there.
Okay.
But yeah, but I went through, I feel like I pick him a lot, but I just, again, when I, look at, unfortunately for the Angels, I'm glad they got the win when you were there, because that's awesome. That's always good to be able to see your team win. But then, COVID and with the Twins. So I just am going to go with consistency. Somebody that when you look at the box score always has a hit, and that's David Fletcher.
I knew where you were going with that once you said you always pick him. He's an easy choice. Last week I gave it to Mike Trout, which I had pretty much tried to avoid, but he's actually been
Right.
the guy who leading the team as we would expect. It was great for them to win that game, especially in the fashion that they did, not only because I was there, but based on what happened the rest of the weekend.
Yeah.
There were no other games. So that was great. For me, though, I looked back at the week, and there was one guy who stood out more than the rest, even more than David Fletcher and Mike Trout. Batted .412 over the week, 7 for 17. Had a double, a home run, drove in 4 RBIs. And right now is scheduled to pitch on Tuesday. That's Shohei Ohtani. He gets my player of the week. He's really stepped up, and I like that they've decided to take off. And we talked about this a little bit earlier about how, pitchers, okay, you're only going to throw potentially 60 pitches today. Well, they've taken off all the restrictions for Shohei.
Yeah, which is good to see. I like it.
And using him. You're here to play. We can't be, kid gloves with you all the time. What if he gets the way you do it and he never really settles in and gets into a groove? Then you've wasted. I think their management of, and a lot of teams, their management of a player sometimes, and we'll talk about one player coming up in around the league that I think has been over and mismanaged, and it causes his problems. And I think that the way that they're doing with Shohei now is a right way, and I think that that's showing him confidence in him, and he's got more self-confidence, and that if you're going to play, and you want to do those things, you just have to go out and do them. Can't constantly be worried about, am I going to get pulled? Am I not? What's going to happen? Do I do this, do that? It makes it more complicated. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah. Well, and I think for Shohei too that, he wants to play. He wants to be out there. He played in Japan, and they let him play in Japan, so let him play here.
Exactly. So he's supposed to pitch the Tuesday game at home, which we'll talk about next week. So the Rangers come in to finish up the Angels homestand. Then the Halos hit the road. They have 4 in Houston versus the Asterix. Emphasis on ass. Arlington will be the next stop, taking on the Rangers. So it's almost like, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the Rangers week to week. And then after that, going into the next week, they're going to be heading up to Seattle. So they're going to get their first matchup with them, which I was looking at that too. Seattle has Houston, and then they're going to play Boston. And Boston came out of nowhere after starting out 0-3. Boom. They are 9-game winning streak, and then it's just crazy. So, at Seattle and Boston had the same record. We'll see what that is when they meet up. So, a lot of good baseball coming up, and hopefully the Angels will get back to their winning ways after their COVID days off. The league is spinning. It's like a top. Remember that toy? You had the little lever on top, and you do it up front, and the spin, the top would spin. That's what's going on in the league. It is crazy throughout the league. Yankees, not sure what's going on there. But let's start off with the American League Player of the Week in Carlos Rodon. And what did he do to be the Player of the Week? He hit a guy in the foot with an errant pitch,
which then led to a no-hitter.
Well, it took away his perfect game, though.
Right.
He was 2 outs away from a perfect game.
Yeah.
And he hit the guy in the foot, and then he got mad at him because he said, "Hey, you could have moved. What kind of stunt is that?
Can't you see what I'm trying to accomplish here?"
That's right. Don't you want to be part of a perfect game?
No.
Hey, do you get to that point that you almost want to just strike out or let him have it? Because I get it, six outs away, but if you're 2 outs away, then I don't know. No, because then people are going to be giving you a hard time about it. Anyway, he grabs a complete game and a no-hitter, so that earned him the AL Player of the Week. And then, speaking also of the White Sox, since we got that, Lance Lynn, who had gotten the first complete game of the season for the league, is on the IL.
Yeah, for this Around the League segment, I felt like I could just go on and have like pages and pages of stuff, especially when it comes to the IL. But yeah, Lance Lynn, he has a 0.92 ERA over 19 2/3 innings pitched. I even looked it up to see how to pronounce it, but now I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But he has this like arm strain. I guess it limits his motion. It's not like, it's like trapezoid, but it's not.
It's like that, but it's exactly like it, only completely different. Anyway, you're right about the IL. It seemed like every time I'd get a little notification on my phone about news, it was somebody else on the IL. Mm-hmm. So let's just go with that.
Okay.
Christian Yelich on the IL.
Yep, with back.
The guy that I was talking about being mismanaged, who seems to be on the IL more than he's off of it, Steven Strasburg,
Yeah. And
is on the IL again.
again,
It's crazy because the Nationals, John Lester is yet to pitch this season. He's been injured. In the same week, Wander Suero, another pitcher from the Nationals, on the IL. Luis Avalon, who is one of their relievers, Tommy John surgery. That's just stuff that came out this week.
just this week.
Not about John Lester, but the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's just this week.
Yeah. And then, so you have, the Nationals, you have Lance Lynn, George Springer, still on the IL. He
Still in the making progress, I hear. But he started off with somewhere in Florida. He's down there somewhere in Florida rehabbing. He started off with an oblique strain, and somewhere in the process of rehabbing somewhere in Florida, he got a quad strain. So now he's finally running, I hear.
Yes.
And of course, that's a big thing. He's doing baseball activities, which is always a good sign. Which to me, though, couldn't baseball activities just be that he's sitting in a dugout spitting out sunflower seeds or I don't know, baseball, sitting on the bench yelling at his teammates or cussing out the pitcher, whatever. Couldn't that be baseball activities?
Yes.
Sitting back in the
He's in the clubhouse.
In the clubhouse.
Yeah, watching the game, 15-second delay.
Soaking his quad or something.
Yeah, so you have that. You have George Springer. Starling Marte has a rib fracture.
Which is a big one for Miami.
Yep.
Because he's pretty much the only one that's really doing anything.
Yeah. Trent Grisham is got quad tightness. Now I don't think is on the IL. I think he's day to day because he did pinch hit in the series against the Dodgers. But yeah, so it just he
started at least one of the games.
He did, yeah. So I'm surprised that Manny made it without a stint on the IL after his performance.
Now, probably the biggest as far as the injury world is the non-injury. It's not an IL. It's another list we like to call the COVID list. And some of our favorites are on the top 10, this week's top 10 COVID list.
And it couldn't happen to a nicer group of people. Did I say nicer? A nicer group of cheaters is really what I meant to say.
That's right. 5?
Yes.
Or more?
Yeah. Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Martin Maldonado, Robel Garcia, all on the COVID list. Now, the general manager, James Click, said that all of these guys had their first shot, their first vaccine, and that, again, there was no indication anyone on the team broke protocol.
Right. No indication. That's because we weren't watching. That's because even if they did break protocol, we knew that we would be man-fretted.
Exactly. So it was really great to see. Oh, I mean, to see them on the
Now,
list.
I do hear that in this upcoming week that they're expecting most of them to come back. Bregman's supposed to come back, and Maldonado, Alvarez. That the only one that's still on the list is Altuve.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
the cheatinest cheater of the cheaters.
Yeah, Cheaty McCheapface. Yeah. One of the things I think, they made a big deal. They said, oh, well, they all had their first shot. They all got the first vaccine, but that first shot of the vaccine. But that doesn't make you, even with the second one, you're not, it's like not totally immune. So, but no tears from SRBB. One note here that we did have a Major League ball player retire at the end of, I think it was over the weekend, and that was Jay Bruce.
You know why he retired?
Why?
You see what's happening in Yankee Stadium.
Well, when your own fans throw baseballs at you on the field, that's a problem. And he's like, I don't want any part of that. Yeah, so Jay Bruce, he's retiring after 14 years in the majors. He was a 3-time All-Star. He went to spring training on a minor league contract with the Yankees. He made the roster because Luke Voigt's injury. And over his career, he had a 244 batting average, 319 home runs, 951 RBIs. In addition to playing with the Yankees, he played with the Reds, the Mets, the Indians, the Mariners, and the Phillies. So
I remember him with the Mariners more than the rest, but yeah, Yankees. I'd run from that too. If it wasn't for the Rockies at 4-12, the Yankees would have the worst record in baseball. They're 5-10.
Well, and I wonder with the Yankees fans throwing the baseballs onto the field, I was actually at a game with Dad in Arlington, and Jose Canseco was out, and they baseballs, I think, obviously hurt more because the fans in Arlington, the hot dog guy was there, and he had extra hot dogs, and they were getting the hot dogs, and they were throwing hot dogs at Jose Canseco.
Oh, wow.
Onto the field
Because he's a hot dog.
Yeah. And
you don't hear that term very much anymore, do you?
You don't. Yeah.
What a hot dog.
Yeah, you don't hear it. So, so, at least maybe they're like, this hot dog is way better than the Yankees. We're going to throw the baseball.
Maybe so, yeah. Everybody. Now, the funny thing to me was, after the fact, the first question wasn't, why did they do that? I mean, they know they're frustrated. The first question was, where did they get all those baseballs from?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I thought, did they give them out? Was it like a promotional thing? Or you do have fans that will bring in, baseballs to be signed.
Well, to be signed. Or they said, did they collect all the baseballs that were hit out during batting practice?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
What did they do?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. And then all of a sudden, 3-minute delay to get all that taken care of. And then you can hear the public address announcer, it's not even, please refrain. Because that's normally what they'll say.
Right.
Do not do this.
Do not do that. So, so we go from balls on the field to that causing one of the Yankees to retire. Oh, I don't know.
To retire. I'm sure that's got to be what it is.
But one of the cool things that happened for a Braves player was for Sean Kazmar Jr., who got called up to play for the Braves. They were playing the Cubs. He's back in MLB for the first time since September 23rd of 2008. 12 years, he's back. And he was a 5th-round draft pick in 2004. He played 19 games for the 08 Padres. And then he's been playing for the Atlanta Braves AAA team, the Gwinnett Stripers. And so 12 years since his last big league appearance. He got to pinch hit. He grounded out, but he said it was a great experience, and he hopes that whoever is on the injured list, because he stays on the injured list, so he can continue. No, he didn't say that, but he wants to stay.
Well, if he could do that and then have like some decent success, he's almost assured a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
The only thing is he would have to figure out how to play baseball during Christmas.
Yeah. It would have to be.
Since you're talking about the Braves, couple of fun things out of that. Number 1, National Player of the Week, Ronald Acuna Jr. Is the National League Player of the Week. Leads the MLB in home runs with 7. He also fits into the other part of our Around the League so far. Little day-to-day action. He's not on the IL yet, but he's IL adjacent with an abdominal strain. Luckily for him, they found that in an MRI or a scan that it's not torn up or whatever that would cause a long term.
Yeah, it's mild, as they
mild.
said it was mild.
Yeah.
Mild.
Okay. Yeah, I've had salsa that was supposed to be mild, and then it burned the soles of my feet. That's how hot it was. So he grabbed that. But the funny story out of the Braves and the Cubs, there's the inspirational story.
Yes.
But the funny story is Anthony Rizzo mic'd up. Freddie Freeman, I think, was mic'd up. And
Yep.
in a rundown, Anthony Rizzo is yelling, "Frederick!" to Freddie Freeman. "Frederick! Frederick!" And saw a story about that said, you really want to get people back, you want to draw fans in, more stuff like this.
Yeah.
And that also brings up, and just now popped in my mind, is that something that they're talking about doing is having the umpires mic'd up like NFL referees. So when something comes out, sometimes it's easy. What happened on the field? He beat the throw, he's safe or he's out. But how many times do things happen and nobody knows what happened? What are we reviewing? Why did the call come down this way? Why? They're going to have it so that when something like that happens, they can hit their little mic and say to the crowd, per rule 6.04591.
Well, that would mean that Eduardo Perez would have to do all of those announcements.
Right. But that'll be kind of cool. That was one thing when I heard about it. Hey, this is good.
Yeah.
Because there's times when you look at it that even the announcers are like, we don't know. And they never find out.
Yeah, and especially now because a lot of the announcers, if their team is playing away, they're still using monitors because they're not traveling with
right.
the team.
They're calling from their home studios or their home stadiums. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times, they don't have all those angles. They don't know what's going on.
Frederick.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was almost like a little league thing going on there.
And the fact that he didn't call him Freddie, that he called
Yeah.
him Frederick, that was pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm with them. I think whenever they've got people mic'd up and mic'd up, and then you can hear them during like stuff like that. Not like where Sunday Night Baseball, where Matt Vasgersian is talking to Paul DeYoung from the Cardinals while he's out on the field, and then he's got to stop and make a play or not make a play because he's distracted by that. I think just the sounds of the game.
Yeah.
That would be more fun. Crazy plays happening. As we'll talk about the Mets because we got to check in on Jake DeGrom.
We do.
DeGrom watch.
Mm-hmm.
Is Marcus Stroman. Did you see this play?
I did. I was able to go back and watch it. Didn't.
He came the ball pitches, the ball comes back. He kind of gets it like a behind the back snag, and then he's kind of backpedaling off the mound. Now, this play is a stupid play if the guy's not out.
Yeah, it would be
because it's great. It was a spectacular grab.
Yes.
He gets it, but then as he's backpedaling off, he barely throws the ball, and it rolls most of the way. And had it not been just a split second faster, the runner would have beat out the play. We'll post that up on the. They're like Gold Glove play, Gold Glove. The first half was Gold Glove. The second half was like when you try to throw with your offhand,
Yes. And it just.
and it looked awkward, and he had no power behind it.
Yeah, it was.
It was awkward.
It was awkward. That's all you can say.
It really was. We'll put it up with what else did we have? We had something else. We'll put those up on the social media and on the website if we can. So the Mets who were off to a slow start, didn't get to play at the beginning because at some point they had to play the Nationals. And, of course, we know Nationals were, we know what they're from the District of COVID, Nationals.
Right.
So they didn't, but now they're leading the AL East.
Mm-hmm. The NL East.
Now they're leading the NL East. No, they might be leading the AL East as well.
Maybe.
All right. So now they're leading the NL East. And I talked about last week that Jacob deGrom, talked last week about that the Mets have a losing record overall when Jacob deGrom is pitching. And Jacob deGrom's ERA is under 1. He pitches great. He struck out like 14 in a game.
And 14 in the game, 9 consecutively.
Right. And still, they lose.
Yeah.
So his numbers look great, but the Mets don't give him any support. And it looked like that's what was going to happen when he pitched on Saturday. Now, he was supposed to pitch on Friday, but that game was postponed due to weather.
It was it was just snow, not snow.
Yeah, it wasn't
It was snow.
Might as well. Snowvid. Snowvid hit it. So it snowed out.
It was snow in Denver, yeah.
Snowed out. DeGrom comes out. So the next day is a doubleheader. So DeGrom's only got to pitch 7 innings.
Which I'm wondering, it's great, DeGrom, we weren't sure about this, but what does it say about the Mets if they can't win for a full 9 innings with him on the mound, but they win with 7? So maybe he only pitches doubleheaders.
Maybe. That's got to be.
I don't.
So how do you make that work? So somewhere along the way, every week somebody's got to get COVID. So you miss a couple of games. They're rescheduled as doubleheaders.
Yeah, or rain or snow or, it could be weather too.
Right, but what's
possibly
easier? Fake
COVID.
some COVID test or do a rain dance?
Yeah, probably fake the.
Okay.
I don't know.
I can't do it. I got COVID. No, it looks like he's. Sorry, COVID.
Yeah.
So DeGrom goes out, pitches 6 of the 7 innings. But in this case, if they'd lost, it would have been his fault because he gave up all 3 runs.
Yeah.
That the Rockies scored. But he struck out 14. He gave up 1 home run. And he had a .045 ERA.
Amazing.
He's behind 3-2. And if not for Jonathan Villar and Francisco Lindor, Villar with a double and an RBI, Lindor drove in Villar, and then they held on, it would have been another loss.
Yep.
But in this case,
He won.
so DeGrom watch for this week ends on a positive note. So I was looking to see some big games that might be worth watching through the week. We know what the Angels and the Dodgers are doing. Some others to maybe take a look at. The Indians and the Yankees. So you'll see Shane Bieber and Garrett Cole, maybe not matching up with one another, but both of those will pitch in there, which works better for the Indians because, well, we talked about the Yankees.
We did. I want to mention Shane Bieber because he tied Nolan Ryan for the most strikes, 48, through 4 appearances in a season since at least 1906. And He becomes the first pitcher with 10 plus Ks in his first 4 starts of a season since 1893. His last game, I think he had 13 strikeouts.
Yep.
So he just continues his wizardry on the mound.
He's the new wizard.
Yes.
And the Indians, who started off kind of slow, they took a couple of beatings from the Tigers in that snow game to start the season. Have I think they're in first place in the Central. So that's been they've turned around. Of course, Bieber's no small part of that, even though he only starts every 5th day or so. So so that Bieber and his mastery will be in with the Yankees. I guess the Yankees have got to hope that Garrett Cole pitches in that series because that's their only chance at a win. It seems. Mariners and Red Sox, we talked a little bit about earlier, both out to strong starts. Can either of these teams maintain their leads in their divisions? I would say that the Red Sox, based on what the rest of the division looks like, have a better chance than the Mariners do. Because the Mariners are going to have to deal with, if the Angels stay with what they've been doing overall, the Asterisks are not going to be down for long. Once they get everybody back and healthy, they're going to be tough again. They're
unless they have like lasting symptoms.
Right. Maybe they'll have that long-term COVID.
Right. Maybe.
Or maybe we could work out a deal to cheat them by putting up that they consistently are testing positive for COVID. Can we work something out like that? I mean, I know it's not ethical, but they weren't. So is it turnabout fair play?
It is. We got.
Isn't that kind of an eye for an eye thing? I don't know. And then a rematch. The Reds and the Cardinals will be matching up in this next week. So we'll get to see if there's any more fireworks between these two teams, or will it be quiet?
Well, no taunting. There may be a no taunting rule.
I think that's probably true. There'll be no taunting.
I wonder if they'll get warnings before the game even
starts. First out. Everybody gets a warning.
Yeah.
There'll be no taunting. Nick Castellanos is not to flex his muscles at anybody.
No. And I think the managers just are automatically thrown out before the game begins.
What's that Dad used to say that Grandma, his mom used to just give him a beating every morning before school?
Yeah, he used to get a spanking every day before school for whatever he was going to do that day.
Preemptive spanking. He's like, well, I can do it. I've already been punished for it. What's that? What's that movie? There's a movie, one of the movies where it's like the cops are going out. Is that like Minority Report or something like that with Tom Cruise, where he goes into the future to get people for crimes they haven't committed, or he comes from the future to arrest people for crimes they're going to commit in the future or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's
concept.
Something like that. But yeah. Yeah.
So it looks like another good week of baseball. And what isn't a good week of baseball? I think next week we should also maybe talk a little bit about what's happening in college baseball.
Yeah. But one of our favorite things is coming up, College World Series. And so we need to take a look and see who's who and
what's what.
Who do we need to look for?
Where's where?
Yep.
Why's why?
Who's on first?
I don't know. Third
base.
What's
on second? Yeah.
And that'll do it for this week's Sibling Rivalry Baseball podcast.
Remember, you can find us on our website, siblingrivalrybb.com, and on Facebook and Instagram at siblingrivalrybb.
We're also on Twitter at siblingrivalrybb without the A. Email us, show@siblingrivalrybb.com. We'd love to hear what you think, so subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to our podcast.
I guess so much for Jeff's solo rivalry baseball podcast. Next week on SRBB, I guess we're stuck with you.
That's right. And we're going back to college.
But I never went to college.